Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to day 2 of our Less Eco Overwhelm, More Eco Impact workshops. How is everybody? I hope you are well. If you are live, then please pop a hello or a emoji or whatever you want in the comments. And sorry, my screen's going a little bit crazy. Let's go back and say hello. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you are watching on replay, same again. I would love to hear from you guys. Just stop by and say hello. It's always nice to know that someone's there and interact and answer any questions that you guys may have. So, as I said, we are on day 2 of our workshop series. And today we are going to be looking at our footprints, our environmental footprints, and also our impact, be that negative or positive. So I am going to switch to the slides. Today, fingers crossed, the slides do seem less fuzzy. So so hopefully you can see them better than you did yesterday. So let me switch over and hello to everybody. Right, okay. So as I said, it is workshop 2. So welcome back. Thank you for joining again. I hope you found yesterday useful, and I hope you find today useful too. So how is everybody feeling? Are we all feeling like super excited, super energized, on top of the world? Or are you feeling a bit, hopefully you're feeling a bit more like this. Happy, but a bit tentative, thinking that maybe we can do this, maybe we can shed some of that guilt, some of that overwhelm, some of that anxiety, but just really taking tentative steps of how you can, how each of us can have an impact without kind of shouldering that burden of like excessive overwhelm. Okay, so a quick recap. What did we learn yesterday? So we learned that it's okay to feel like this. It's understandable why we're feeling this distress, this overwhelm, this anxiety. We went through the fact that it's good to learn more, to understand more about what's going on, what the issues are, and so then we can know how we can help. However, we need to have a balance. We mustn't let that learning, that education, that extra knowledge really sit too heavily on our shoulders. We need to kind of walk that line between feeling guilty, not guilty, but also taking action and not taking action. So we kind of need to, everything's about balance. And leads us on to the next point. By taking action, that leads us into our hope. That is where we're going to find hope. That is going to have the most dramatic effect at kind of pulling this this sort of guilt and overwhelm, this burden that we feel, off our shoulders. We are going to focus on the positive, both in our own actions and in the news. We had yesterday someone say that they'd made a list and they'd got to 100 things that they do for the environment, and we all do so much. So we're going to celebrate those wins, and we are also going to have a look at all the positive news stories that there are in the news, and we are going to seek those out and absorb them and feel the inspiration and feel the energy. And we are going to realize we're not in this on our own. We are in this together. We are a team, we are a community, and we are out to look after and nurture each other. And leading on from that, we are going to be gentle, both with ourselves and with others. Get my words out. With others. We're all at different places. We're all at different levels of stress, of overwhelm, of other overwhelm, not just eco overwhelm in our lives. We are all juggling 101 things, and we have to start where we can, and we have to meet others where they are. Okay, right. As I said, we are not going to feel guilty for a supply chain that we did not create. So that's what we talked about yesterday. Now, remember, just as yesterday, how to get the most from these sessions. Pretend that you've paid for them. Block out the time in your diary, show up, whether that's live or on replay, participate, listen, learn, ask questions, comment, and then take away some actions. Secondly, note down any questions you have. We have got a question and answer session tomorrow, but if you have any questions on the fly and I can answer them, I definitely will. And bring your best energy. As I said, alone it can feel terribly overwhelming, but together we can do this. We really can. Okay, and I just want to wrap up this introduction with a fantastic quote from Maya Angelou, a civil rights, you probably know, a civil rights activist, poet, and award-winning author. She says, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better." And I love this quote because I really think it strikes a balance between being kind to ourselves and not putting too much guilt and pressure on our shoulders, but at the same time it challenges us to keep learning and then keep doing. And so I love this, and I think this is perfect for what we're trying to do, or certainly what I'm trying to help people feel with these workshops, and how I think the approach to eco learning and eco doing should be. Okay, so workshop 2. We are going to divide this into kind of 2 main sections. Number 1, we are going to look at our own environmental footprint. And in the second section, we are going to learn why, or talk about why being eco-imperfect is actually perfect and does have a positive impact. So let's kick off our environmental footprint. So what is an environmental footprint? We talk about it, but what actually is it? So the Cambridge Dictionary defines an environmental footprint as the effect that a person, company, activity, etc., has on the environment. For example, the amount of natural resources that they use and the amount of harmful gases that they produce. So all quite straightforward. And when you start to look about environmental footprints, a lot of them, and we'll look at some calculators going forward, a lot really looks at like what we as individuals, like the negative impact, our negative footprint that we have on the world. But what I like about this sort of diagram and way of looking at it is the bit that sometimes gets forgotten is that we have this world which from which we can get resources, and it's really about the balance between what resources can generate and regenerate themselves, and then what do we use of that. So this ecological footprint measures the demand on and the supply of nature. On the demand side, it adds up all the productive areas for a population or a person or a product, and sort of what they compete for, be that energy, food, fiber, timber, etc. And then it measures the ecological assets that a population or a product requires, excuse me, to produce the natural resources it consumes. So that includes plant-based food, fiber products, livestock, fish products, and other forest products. Space, we often think about space for urban infrastructure, but it also looks to how it can absorb its waste, and especially carbon emissions. And then on the supply side, whether you're looking at from a city or a state or a nation, it looks at this biocapacity. And what that represents is the productivity of all its ecological assets. So that could be cropland, grazing land, forest, fishing, built up areas. And these areas, especially if they're left unharvested, can absorb some of the waste that we generate, especially our carbon emissions. So it's not really just about what we use up and what we produce, but it's also this bottom part, like what can our environment kind of really mop up for us? So why is it important? Back to Jane Goodall. She's a very wise lady and has some fantastic words for us to listen to. So in this particular instance, like why we're looking at our impact is, she says, and I totally agree, you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of a difference you want to make. So has anybody heard of World Overshoot Day? Do you know what it is? And does anybody know what day it is? Sort of in the calendar year. I'll take a sip of water and see if anybody wants to hazard a guess, or if they know. Okay, so what I'm going to do is you're just going to, you're going to see me for a second, I think. Hello. And I am going to share, where are we? Here we go. Just a quick 1-minute video about World Overshoot Day. Look at Lin-Manuel there. Okay, let's...
More than 80% of people in the world today live in countries that demand more from nature than their ecosystems can regenerate. Their countries' ecological budgets are in the red. We know this from ecological footprint accounting. The ecological footprint measures human demand on nature and can be compared to biocapacity, which is the productivity of a region's ecological assets. China has the largest total ecological footprint, making up nearly 24% of the world's total ecological footprint. However, China's footprint per person is only 3.6 global hectares. By comparison, the footprint per person of the United States is much larger at 8.6 global hectares. Brazil, meanwhile, has an ecological reserve thanks to its immense forests. Brazil has a biocapacity per person of nearly 8.9 global hectares and a footprint per person of 3 global hectares. Carbon emissions are the largest component of the ecological footprint. The footprint also includes consumption of food, timber, fiber such as cotton, and use of land for cities. Global Footprint Network calculates the footprint of more than 200 countries and regions from 1961 to the present. Find out if your country's ecological budget is in the red. Visit our Footprint Explorer open data platform at data.footprintnetwork.org.
Okay, stop that. Hello again. Right, let me share back to the slides again. Okay, give me a second. I think we should be here. Ta-da! Right, now, is that what you can see? Yes, you can see the slides. Fantastic. So, let me just show myself in the corner here. So, I just wanted to show that very quick video just to kind of, I suppose, I don't know whether you guys have felt the same, but I've always thought of my footprint as being like the impact that I have had. What am I producing? What waste am I producing? And I haven't thought too much about this biocapacity. And I suppose this is why when at COP last year, there was a lot of talk about biodiversity and restoring nature and doing what we can to kind of increase this kind of, not just stop producing at a zero sum, but also increase the ecosystems and the biodiversity around us. Right, let me switch back. There we go. Right. Okay, so we've looked in general at what an impact is, what a footprint is, how it, at the highest level, how it gets measured. So let's have a look at our own impacts at an individual level. So I talked about yesterday this footprint.wwf.org.uk as a starting point. And when you look further at how they describe their footprint, they say, let me stop there. What does tend to happen, because I think certainly at a personal level, is it is much harder to measure things other than carbon. And so a lot of these footprint calculators do end up with kind of more of a carbon footprint rather than a general environmental footprint. Some of them don't. But yes, they are quite focused on carbon, but that's not a bad thing, because that's definitely going to help us fight the sort of climate change and global temperature increase. So WWF says, your footprint is a way of showing your carbon emissions compared to other people and other countries. And they say it's your impression on the planet. And it says your in terms of how their calculator works, your individual emissions are built up from the energy you use personally for electricity and travel, as well as the energy that's required to produce your food and all the other stuff you buy, and whether it's made in the UK or elsewhere. So they convert all the different greenhouse gases into an equivalent impact from carbon dioxide, which is the main greenhouse gas. And your footprint that they generate is the value in tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So on this one, you basically answer a number of questions and you'll see a percentage score. 100% is the average for each UK citizen. And what they've done is they've mapped it on a like a line moving down to 0 for 2045. So if you're at 100%, you're kind of on track to be on average. If you are above it, then you know you can do a bit more to help hit this target of 0 emissions by 2045. And if you are under 100%, good job. And keep doing what you're doing. But remember, we still need to cut emissions even further. Okay, so I did mine last year, at the end of last year, and my carbon footprint was 83% at just under, I think it was probably about 8 tons or something like that. And the UK average is about 12 tons. And it breaks it down in terms of my food, home, things I buy, and I can't remember, it must be travel at the top. Okay, so yesterday we had a question basically saying, are there some more detailed footprint calculators? And I said, yes, there are. This one is carbonfootprint.com, and it sort of generates your like your total carbon footprint. You need to have the details of the amounts of electricity and gas you use, and it looks at the impact of the things that you buy, be that food, clothes, electronics, books, your mortgage, etc. This one, carbonindependent.org. It's easier to fill out and it uses averages to calculate your usage. So you don't need to have your like specific amounts of gas or electricity that you use. The bad thing about this one is we recently got an electric car and it doesn't have an option for an electric car. So that's a limitation on that one. We also have footprintcalculator.org, and it shows your impact by category. So as we don't use our car very much and it's electric, and we haven't been many places over the past year or so, mobility in for our footprint is calculated as the lowest. And what this does is this shows, and it sort of links back to the World Overshoot Day video we just watched, but how many Earths would we need if everyone lived like me? So I'm using 3 hectares, but actually we only have 1.7 hectares of productive land per person globally. So really, I'm still living at using more Earths than we have. So this is why it's good to do a few of these calculators, because you can come away, again, it's all about balance. It's about not feeling the overwhelm, not feeling the guilt, not feeling the anxiety and feeling defeated, but at the same time, really understanding the impact of our actions and our purchases and the way we live. Just rounding up with, this is a plastic footprint calculator, mylittleplasticfootprint.org. And you create a profile in this app, and you answer some questions as you do, and you come up with sort of your plastic mass index, how much plastic you use. And then it comes up, so it comes up with hints and tips of how to reduce your PMI, plastic mass index, to 0. So I quite like this one, and I do like the little alternatives, and it sort of talks about diets, and you can choose different areas that you want to work on. Okay, but again, making sure we have balance and we don't get overwhelmed. Remember, you are already addressing that impact. By signing up for these workshops, 5 trees have been planted for every person who signed up already on your behalf, and they will offset 1.5 tons of carbon over their 25-year lifetime, which is about 1/8 of the carbon output of the average UK citizen. Also, some of you already had yesterday. Hopefully some more of you have done this last night with the homework. When you install Ecosia and you use that as your search engine, they will plant trees on your behalf while you search. So again, very, very low effort, high impact things that you can do. So you're already taking action. And remember your list. This is just a sample. Everything we're doing, it's not perfect, it's not enough, but we are moving in the right direction. We are all trying to do the right thing, and it's great just to celebrate those wins and show that we're steering the ship to go in the right direction. Obviously, we also need to apply pressure at a corporate and or governmental level too. And so in the Just a Little Bit More Eco course, the 10-week course, which launches tomorrow, exciting, each of the first 4 weeks, which are the kind of the introductory weeks where we learn about different environmental issues, each week there will be templates to write to your MP, your council, your school, any large corporations to address specific issues around climate change, plastic pollution, biodiversity decline, and the circular economy and zero waste. So it's not just down to us. As individuals, we do need to apply pressure, and in the course, that's hopefully what I will provide that support, so it's easier to do that. Okay, I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. So, continuing to lighten our footprint. I love this quote from Anna Lappe. She says, every time you spend your money, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want. And I just think this is so important. As consumers, what we do and what we want and what we spend our money on counts. If people stop buying sort of unenvironmentally friendly products, there will be no market for them, and you know, and companies will change their practices. Now, this is definitely not to sort of shame, eco shame, or apply pressure or judgment on anybody who buys, I don't know, single-use plastics or whatever, because back to the point of, do not feel guilty for the supply chain that you did not create. And, you know, and companies haven't truly factored in the environmental cost of many cheaper products. So, and then more environmentally friendly products are at a much higher price point. But I think certainly where I can, where I am privileged enough, and I do recognize my privilege, to have the ability to buy more environmentally friendly products, I do, and I will, because I feel that the more of us who can and do, the more cost effective those products will be, and the more widely spread they'll be for everybody. So I really do think that when we spend our money, we're casting a vote, and I love this. So on that, a quick little game, and this is from a book called How Bad Are Bananas, which I love. It's the carbon footprint of everything. It is informative yet light-hearted, and yeah, it's really great. I might just put my little face up if we're going to do a game. Hello. So, can anybody watching, does anybody know the answer to this question? How bad are bananas? and specifically, how many kilos of carbon dioxide equivalent are produced per kilo of bananas? So if you have a kilo of bananas, how much in kilos carbon dioxide equivalent is produced? Maybe I should make myself a bit bigger as well. Hi. Does anybody? Oh, you're getting a book at the library tomorrow. That is so exciting. Oh, well, good. You won't you won't be able to choose on this one. Anybody got any ideas? If you haven't, don't worry. I will give you the answer. I'll give you another couple more seconds. I love this book, and I'm a page folder. I've folded a lot of the things that the sort of the pages that I really want to remember. Okay, I will give you the answer. So for bananas, for every kilo of bananas produced, they cost us, if we think of it as that, as 0.7 kilos of CO2 or CO2 equivalent. I'll say carbon dioxide. I'll try to remember the equivalent. For apples, has anybody got an idea of apples? So I've told you bananas, 0.7 kilos. Apples, how many kilos of carbon dioxide are produced when they are grown? Per kilo, this is. Anybody got any idea? Okay. So actually, I don't know what the time delay is on this. I don't know whether I'm giving you enough time. Okay, well, I will carry on and, oh, hello. It's not that bad. Exactly. Yeah, and part of the reason is that bananas travel well. So when I might be giving hold up. Yes, shipping is a much more carbon efficient way of transporting goods than air freight. I will just leave it at that. Apples are less, especially in the UK. You are right. So, for example, and a local apple is 0.3 kilos per kilogram, but from New Zealand is 0.6 kilos. So where we buy from does have an impact. I will give you another example. So for example, grapes on the road from Spain per kilo, they cost us in terms of carbon emissions, 1.1 kilos. But that is versus air freighted from South Africa, 18.5 kilos of carbon dioxide per kilo of grapes. Wow, hey? So it makes a massive difference. Okay, so quick pop quiz. We're now going to go to cheese. Which has the highest carbon footprint per 250 grams of cheese? Goats, cheddar, or Parmesan? Now, I realize that best for the world and for the environment and also for animal welfare, moving away from dairy and meat, absolutely. My family, that's our journey. We're slowly tackling all the different areas we've done pretty well on our sort of meat and fish consumption, and we are tackling our different areas of dairy and slowly transitioning. We are 100% dairy-free milk, and we are finding the right alternatives in other spaces. We're actually also 100% dairy-free ice cream, which I am super excited about because I love ice cream, but I really wanted that taste. Yeah. Okay, the Riverford grapes come from Spain, Yin. Exactly. You think it's probably cheddar. It's actually not. It is, so per 250 grams, goat's cheese, 1.6 kilos of carbon dioxide emissions. Cheddar, 3 kilos, and Parmesan, 4.8. So again, not all is the same. Now, I'm going to do one final little example. Okay, what we're doing is tomatoes, 1 kilo versus 8 ounces of steak. Which has the higher footprint? So an 8-ounce steak or a kilogram of tomatoes? And yes, you can, as you're probably learning, think about sort of where they're coming from. And I will reveal that in a minute. But it's so interesting. And actually, yeah, one of the things I love about Riverford, and I'm sure other farm boxes, Odd Box and Abel and Cole also do, is that they do seasonal stuff. And I know that they have sister farms on mainland Europe, but I know that they only kind of road and sea freight and don't air freight. And so yes, sometimes things are slightly sort of an extended season, but stuff does disappear. So it is more seasonal, and I think that really does help. So which has the higher footprint, tomatoes or steak? And you probably know that I'm going to that it's a little bit topsy-turvy. Okay, I am going to answer now because of the time delay, but so here are the amounts. So for a kilogram of tomatoes, if you have the large salad variety, locally grown and in season, so that's like our traditional tomato. Okay, tough glass grown, yeah, UK grass fed, gets complex. You think the tomato, okay, yeah. Let's listen. So if you have the large variety, the original ones that our grandparents always had, they're grown locally, they're in season, per kilogram, they will cost us 1.3 kilograms of carbon emissions. For baby plum tomatoes, which are either UK summer or Spanish winter grown, 4.5 kilograms per kilo. But if you are going for organic vine cherry tomatoes in a heated greenhouse in the UK in March, 28.2 kilograms per kilo for tomatoes. Now, steak, on the other hand, per 8 ounces, which isn't per kilo, obviously, that is about it's about 250 grams, isn't it? A bit under 200 grams or something like that. It's 5.8, but you're only going to eat an 8-ounce steak. 5.8 kilos of carbon if it comes from the UK, and 17.8 if it comes from deforested land in Brazil. And if you're going for like beef rather than steak, it's 24 kilos. So it is high, and it is much higher than the locally grown larger varieties. And I hadn't thought about this before, but the larger varieties, you kind of get more tomatoes per plant, like per space, whereas the smaller ones, it's kind of less efficient. So it gets complex, and again, it's all about balance. Like sometimes learning these things really sort of, what's the word? It kind of like immobilizes us and stops us making decisions. So what can we do to get some help? So let's just switch back to the big slides. Okay. So as we've seen, we need to know how we can make more informed choices. And are there any things, is there anything that can help us make those choices? Well, obviously, I love that book, How Bad Are Bananas? So that's a great start. And I love this website, The Ethical Consumer. It's £30 a year, so it is paid for, but it's not a huge amount. And basically, if you look across the top, it's got like anything really that you can buy. It's sort of broken down into energy, clothing, food, health, home and garden, money, like your pensions, your savings, etc. Technology and travel. And really, when you're looking, I've just shown you one example, you kind of look into a particular area. This is, for example, is clothing, and it rates different companies on a whole range of different categories. And so it can really help you like sort of navigate and decide which companies you want to buy from. Back to that Anna Lappe quote, we're casting a vote every time we spend money. Let's hear more about our candidates and who we want to vote for. Another fantastic organization is B corporations. So certain organizations go through a very thorough process and become what's called B corporations. And what they're looking at is verified social and environmental performance, how transparent they are, how legally accountable they are, and the balance that a company puts between profit and purpose. And what they want to do is build, so B Corp want to do, and the companies who have kind of signed up to be verified by them want to do, is really build this inclusive, sustainable economy where, because they say governments and non-profits alone can't solve society's most challenging problems, and that we can use profit and growth as a means to a greater end. We can have a positive impact on employees, on the communities, on the environment, and every B Corp is working towards reduced inequality, lower levels of poverty, a healthier environment, stronger communities, and creation of higher quality jobs with dignity and purpose. So they really want to use business as a force for good. And in here, again, you can search under categories, industries. You can look and see whether a company you're buying from is a B Corp, or for some ideas. You love it, ethical consumer. You have used it loads since buying a subscription. Staggered that Greggs is one of the best high street coffee chains. I know, it's some of the things it doesn't seem intuitive, does it? But I guess it's about all behind the scenes of what they're doing. Okay, so we've looked at our footprint. We've looked at the impact we can have. We looked at how the money we spend can cast a vote for the type of world that we live in. So none of us are perfect. I especially learned that during the first lockdown. I used to have this like really thorough system of, I would buy cans and packaged goods from our online supermarket. I'd buy our fruit and veg from Riverford. I would go to the bakery and I'd do this. And, I'd gone through which brands were the ones with the, like, all in plastic, all in cardboard with a little bit of plastic, etc. And then my husband came along and sort of started getting involved, and there's plastic everywhere. And I've learned how to let go. So we're all imperfect. But why is that perfect? Well, when your family and friends know that they don't need to be perfect in order to make a difference to the world around them, they're more likely to give being sustainable and sustainable living a try. By saying that you're 100% perfect now, or holding that up as a goal, you're giving others an unattainable goal that is actually discouraging. So by us being imperfect, by us saying, hey, we're trying to be more sustainable, we are trying to make good decisions, but we're not perfect, it means that others around us are like, okay, that looks less frightening. I'm up for having a go. And we berate ourselves for not making enough lifestyle changes, but forget that the real goal is system change. We really have to change this, that we have to change the supply chain. We have to change the way the economy works. And it's not really just us as individuals making lots of tiny changes. We have to do both. We have to, by doing that, we're applying pressure. And of course, we can apply direct pressure. And I mentioned a few slides earlier, the email templates as part of helping you guys to lobby MPs, councils, schools, companies, etc. If you sign up to the just a little bit more eco course. And really, we've got to live. Sustainability shouldn't be about sacrificing, but making these small positive changes that we can commit to long term, because that's what we want to do. And it's about making the best possible decisions with the things that you have in place, with like the people and the tools and the systems that are in place. And we have to remember that we're doing our best. Okay. So another quick exercise. Well, the first was a game. This is an exercise. Oh, well, that was fancy. I didn't know I built it like that to do that little circle. I'm just going to take a sip. So back to my beloved book, How Bad Are Bananas? So the average, I mean, there's a whole range. Some people say it's much lower at 7, some people say it's much higher at 15, but I've heard 12 to 13 quite a lot, enough to think that's kind of probably about right. The average UK annual carbon footprint is 12.7 tons of CO2 per year, and it's roughly divided into almost exactly 4 quarters. 25% food, 25% home and accommodation, 27% travel, so a little bit more travel, and then 23% everything else. And then as you can see, that's the middle circle. And then you can see from the outer circle kind of a little bit more of a breakdown. So what's from shops versus eating out, nights away, our normal housing, our fuel, which is quite big, our electricity, vehicle fuel, the manufacturer of our cars, personal flights, ferry crossings and cruises, non-food shopping, other services, health and education. So that is how our footprint is made up. So, slight shift. Who has ever heard of this, the Wheel of Life? Have you seen it? Have you done it? Do you know what it is? So basically, the Wheel of Life is a visual tool, and it's often used in coaching, and it's used to assess and then also understand how balanced your life currently is. So essentially, I mean, you can have a whole range of these things around the outside. Environment, community, money and finances, spirituality, and you can map, for example, how good you think you're doing on each of these things, or how important each of these things are to you, or how important you want them to be. So but you can map sort of like how important they are versus how well you think you're doing, and it can really give you a nice visual idea of what you want your life to be like and where it is at the moment. Okay, we are not going to fill this in today. But the reason I wanted to show you this is, let's forget about kind of like the exact things around the outside and sort of maybe put some of our own in there. And I wanted to show you this. For long-term sustainable change, you need to pick your battles, okay? It's okay to prioritize the parts of sustainability that light you up. And no, you don't have to do it all, because not everyone is excited about the same things. So if we go back to this and think of different areas of sustainability, whether that's living plastic free, whether it's reducing our transport footprint, whether it's reducing our food footprint, our heating, our lighting, we can go back to here, all the different things that have an impact. We could, for example, plot those into something like this and then work out what excites us. Maybe we don't really like cooking and therefore we don't feel excited about trying new things, or maybe travel is important and we want to do more of that, so we can work out how we do that in a sort of more environmentally friendly way. So this is the exercise. I've done it on sort of left-right axis just because it's easier than doing the wheel. But if you wanted to draw yourself a wheel and do it in a different shape, that is totally fine. So these are ones that are suggested from the How Bad Are Bananas book. So it's really about, where do you plot yourself in terms of money? Do you want to save money, or do you not mind about costs? In terms of time, you want to save time, or you're happy for it to take time? Do you want to get healthier while you're doing it, or do you want to just focus on your health separately? And do you want this to be a fun and involved project, or do you want it to be super simple? And then there's also, other things. You can add another scale if that's important. This is in your workbook, so feel free to print that out and do that, or do that on your screen. So really, this has got to be personal to you. We don't have to do it all, and we each have different priorities, and we each have different things that we just are sort of non-negotiables. So have a think about this, and have a think about sort of what lights you up, what doesn't light you up, what you want to focus on. And then this will really help you start to pick your battles. Okay, so we've talked about imperfectly eco does have an impact. And I want to show you an example for food. So this is a look at diets, and we've got one from shrinkthatfootprint.com and one from Vox, and they basically tell the same kind of story. Going from, so you don't, for example, let's say you really like meat, going from being a meat lover who eats a load of meat to cutting back your meat and cutting out your beef, you're going to drop your carbon footprint in terms of tons from 3.3. This is your food print, not your total footprints, beware. It's a 1.9. So that's over a third just by having no beef. If you go to vegetarian, you're almost halving your footprint. And then going that step to vegan absolutely has an impact, but it's not an all or nothing end game. Every in the good words of Tesco, every little helps. And then we see the same. So the one on the left is US and it's in tons. The one on the right is UK and it's in pounds, which you don't often hear, but the numbers add up about the same. From a heavy meat eater to a low meat eater, you're cutting about a third of your carbon footprint. And then sort of its diminishing returns, still very worthwhile doing from an environmental and a sort of ethical perspective. But don't get put off if you just can't take that full step. And that's with everything. It's not just with diet. Okay. Now, I also just wanted to show that, again, in terms of politics and stuff, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. So in the local elections last year, there was a shift towards green politics. Now, they may not be in power, but these votes apply pressure to local and national governments when, when there are more seats, more votes, etc. So, for example, in the councillor gains, Greens gained 85 seats. And in the mayoral elections, there was a high green vote in terms of the second choices that kind of came through. Indeed, and more recently, October last year, Britons are more favourable, have more favourable opinion of the Greens than any other main parties. Does that mean they're going to vote for them? Well, let's see. And so who might consider voting for the Greens? So this is basically the question was, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 meaning you would never consider and 10 means you are definitely considering voting them, how likely you to consider voting for this particular party in the next general election. And this is the answer for the Greens. And what they've done is they've just shown from 5 upwards. So kind of I may be considering voting them to I'm definitely considering voting for them. And they've broken it down by 2019 voters and various other things. So 65% of 2019 Labour voters considering voting for the Greens in any format from 5 to 10, 63% of Lib Dem voters, and I mean you can read this yourself, but 41% of the general population. So maybe we're not there yet, and this is not a party political broadcast for the Greens. It's more just about the fact that the more we do, the more pressure that's applied, and we don't have to have like a Green Party government to keep applying pressure, and things happen. So, for example, Scotland is giving 30% of its land back to nature. That's amazing, especially when you consider that Costa Rica, who won I think it was the Biodiversity Earthshot Prize back in, that's probably November because it's probably around COP. They originally had 75% forest cover. It went down to 26% in the 70s and 80s, and they've increased it over the last 20 years, and they've doubled it to 52%. So if Scotland is giving 30% of its land back to nature, and the biodiversity winner of the Earthshot Prize last year has 52%, I think this is major. I think this is great news. Renewables had a great year in 2020. It's always like a year behind. The greenest day ever in the UK in April. The Cambo oil field development was paused. Just read today that another one has been given the green light. So that's not great, but it apparently is 1/30 of the size, but swings and roundabouts. Hey, yeah, there are more areas of land that are being given to like given protected status. There's loads of progress on plastic pollution. The French government have banned wrapping on fruit and vegetables at the start of this year. Spain is doing it for a 2025 deadline. Major wind farms to coal countries. Look at this, low carbon air travel. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, flying in an airship just looks insane, doesn't it? But there are loads and loads of good news stories out there. So we don't have to be perfect. We just have to keep pushing. So a quick recap. You didn't create the supply chain. However, we do all have an impact. And I really strongly believe that it's really important to know our footprint, know what we as individuals, the impact that we have on the world, and then make some decisions. Know that being imperfect is perfect. It makes it seem achievable. It inspires more people to take action. It sustains us to keep going and not berate ourselves if we're for not achieving this kind of nirvana of like being zero waste. And just pick your battles, pick the things that excite you, pick the things that you enjoy doing, and just start with those. Okay, remember, for these workshops, there is a prize. And this is a scholarship to the Just a Little Bit More Eco course I've mentioned a few times, which is a 10-week course, videos, challenges, meditations, recipes, etc. You will get, rather than just the 5 trees that you've got planted in your name for registering for the workshop, 50 trees planted through Ecology, and then the zero waste plastic-free dental kits. All you have to do is attend the workshops either live or on replay and commit to eco action over eco overwhelm, and share your biggest light bulb moment from each workshop. And then if you get a bonus entry for sharing a selfie on social media with the caption. I still haven't changed it. Overcoming my eco overwhelm. So tag @ContentedCompany on Facebook or tag @ContentedEarth on Instagram, and the winner will be announced on Sunday the 13th. So what's next? Workshop 3. I can't believe how fast we are roaring through those. Please send me any questions you have about eco living, any how-tos or anything like that ahead of time, or also more than welcome to ask live. The workshop is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. We're going to cover Q&A, hints and tips, and what's next. So I'm just going to put my face on again. Hello. So wrapping up as we did yesterday. Remember, I have to make this bigger, don't I? I'll pop down in the corner. We don't need a handful of people doing zero waste or plastic free or whatever it is perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. Remember that. And then this guy, what a time to be born, because what a great time to be alive, because this generation gets to essentially completely change the world. So let's do it. Let's change the world. So I will make myself big. Thank you. Thank you so much for attending. A little bit longer than yesterday, but I should still be able to give you 5 minutes of your time back. Thank you for caring. Thank you for wanting to kind of banish your overwhelm and your sort of freeze and not moving forwards. Thank you for understanding that imperfect is perfect and wanting to do more. So I appreciate you joining me, whether that's live or on catch up. Any questions, please pop them to me, and we'll be doing a Q&A session tomorrow. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day, or even if you're watching this in the evening, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.